for those in their 20s and then those in their 30s and then those 35 through early 40s,
Hmm.
what guidance would you give them today? I know that's a big, broad question, but what should they be
Yeah.
thinking about?
No, I think it's a great question and a good way to think about it. I mean, I think, if you're in your 20s, I think across the board, you always want to think about what could you be doing. Of course, age is such a factor, and the wear and tear of aging on our reproductive system and our eggs specifically is just a fact of life. There are things you can be avoiding, though, that we know speed up the process of decline in our egg count and quality. Smoking, and so vaping. I see a lot of 20-something-year-olds who vape and they think it's safer than smoking, but it's still bad for you. And so that's like, something we know, we have the data. It's associated with earlier age of menopause. It's associated with having a harder time getting pregnant. So if you needed a reason to quit, your reproductive health is one of them, right? Alcohol intake based on the data, like trying to minimize, to less than 4 drinks in a given week, which I think is a really reasonable amount to say, let's stay below that threshold. But, anyone, especially who like goes out for drinks as part of work, they're entertaining clients, it's very easy to exceed that amount. But there's so much information that's come out over the years, not just about the impact on fertility, but the impact of alcohol on cancer risk and things like that, that I think we need to be more mindful. It's been normalized for too long, drinking heavily. And, I think the best diet for fertility is always the best diet for your heart health. Think about it like that. Anything better for heart health is better for your fertility. So that comes down to, Mediterranean style diet, high in
Mhm.
antioxidants, healthy fats like avocado, eating nuts, seeds, fruits and vegetables, eating the rainbow, trying to minimize processed foods, trying to minimize red meat and have healthy lean protein. And then when you think about, being sedentary, that's never good for fertility. It's not good for your heart health either. So exercise, we usually say like 150 minutes per week is the goal. That could be like a 30-minute brisk walk every day, Monday to Friday, right? But all of these things seem simple. Sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night is the goal. Again, even if you look back to my analogy about cardiovascular risk factors, there's a lot of data linking sleep apnea, sleep disturbance, insomnia with, cardiovascular events earlier in life. And so I really think that that's the rule of thumb. Anything better for heart health is going to be better for fertility. Think about it in a longitudinal fashion. Don't just think about it if and when you're ready to start freezing eggs or go through trying to conceive. Think about it holistically for your future self, even in your 20s. In your 30s, start to carve out time to prioritize your reproductive goals, because I know what it's like as a busy career woman.
Mhm.
You can just be on the hamster wheel and totally lose track of time. And that I've seen happen to many people. And it honestly would have happened to me. I'm convinced, even as a physician, if I was in a different field, it would have happened to me. I would have never made the time to be like, oh, I'm going to freeze. I would have said, no, sorry, I'm operating, like I don't have time. I just wouldn't have done it. I don't think I would have done it. It was because I worked in the fertility clinic and I made it a massive priority because of my job and what I was seeing every day. And I'm so glad I did, because I ended up needing to rely on what I froze. And it
Mhm.
really took a lot of the pressure off, and it made what ended up being an easy process in the end. It wasn't easy for me to get those embryos, which I talk about in my book. I
Yeah.
did do multiple rounds, and now, I have a whole new level of understanding of what it looks like to go through the shots and not get something useful from that cycle. But
Mhm.
then also needing to do this over and over, and persistence paying off. But it made the tail end then for me, thankfully, easier than otherwise what it could have been. So I do think, not everyone in their 30s has to freeze, but you never want to be someone that says, you know what, I never even knew about it. I never even
Mhm.
thought about it. I wish someone had told me. We've all heard that Jennifer Aniston interview, which is so heartbreaking, where she's like, I kind of wish someone had told me. She was
Mhm.
busy at the height of her career, like such a huge star with all of the resources in the world. But it's so easy to get caught up in life. And I think you have to sit down and carve out intentional time, whether you like journaling, meditating, and thinking about other things outside of your career. It doesn't matter if you're in the perfect relationship or not, or, just focus on like my fertility. What do I want out of life? Do I know what I want? You don't have to know the answer, but figure out what you want. Think about it until you figure it out. Keep thinking about it. And then put it at the top of your mind as like a priority,
Mhm.
because then you might act differently. I think when people think about manifesting, they think about it in too much of a magical sense. It's actually quite logical that if you put something out there in the universe, it means you're thinking about it, you're speaking about it, you're writing it down. Maybe it's on a vision board, but it's now at the forefront of your consciousness. So maybe instead of saying, yeah, I'm going to take on that extra project and I'm going to work through the weekend, maybe you're going to say, you know what? I don't want to, but I'm going to go out and socialize because, like, I have personal goals and I need to put myself out there.
Mhm.
And, like, I think that it can shift so many things in subtle ways to just state what your goals are, because it's going to change your behavior, even in subtle ways that might lead you closer to the path that you're trying to get on.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, we're so intentional about all these areas in our lives. Why can't we add this in? And we should add
I
this
think it's
in.
hard to be
Yeah.
intentional for people because they feel like it's not all in their control. It
Mm.
feels overwhelming to be like, I'm going to have a baby by age 35. Well, okay, well, that's putting a lot of pressure on me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to find the right person. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I'm here to say it's okay to make those types of statements, because all of your behaviors, even in other arenas of your life, will start to gravitate towards that goal. And it's okay to want that.
Mhm.
By the way, there's also, like, as a millennial myself, there's like a stigma, that I hope is lifting. But
Yeah.
even in my early 30s, like, I had a bunch of kick-ass female friends that were all like, "Ugh, so and so is already settling down and having kids." Like, it almost was viewed as like a form of kind of giving up and giving in way too early, because we all want to accomplish all these things. And so I do hope that that's changing, because I think that that's not a helpful way to think. I actually started out in my journey being like, I'm not having kids until my 40s. Like,
Mhm.
I have I told my husband that when we were dating. I
Oh.
was like, I hope that's okay with you. Like, I just was completely had a different mindset, and only being a fertility doctor, that only because of that, I think I really shifted my thinking. So I see patients all the time where I'm like, I understand that mindset because I was in that mindset.
Mhm.
I actually moved up my timeline, went off of the pill and started trying earlier than when I was emotionally ready to, or even from a career standpoint. I didn't feel fully settled. I wasn't even done with training, but I was married. So I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm
Mhm.
assuming I can control all these things. Like, I just came home one day and told my husband, I was like, I'm getting off the pill and we're going to start trying
Okay.
earlier. And he's like, okay, that's not what we
Yeah.
discussed, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. And I was like, okay. And then I decided to freeze embryos as well. And it just really kind of scared me straight. And I don't think everyone should be feeling scared,
Mhm.
but it's just, if I could have those misconceptions, even being interested in this field from an early stage in my career and
Yeah.
training, I mean, I can't even imagine what the average person who's not even in medicine thinks.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think you mentioned in your book that you had your first daughter at 33. So, yeah, you tried much earlier than you said, because you said, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna wait till I'm in my 40s."
Yeah. And
And
some of my friends were kind of like, oh, that's interesting, because they
Mhm.
never thought that I would be the type. I had so many things I wanted to do. And I think I just realized, like, there's never going to be a perfect time. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Sure, there's things that you have to consider, and you have to make some sacrifices, and you can't maybe do everything 100% all the time, whether it's parenting or career.
Mhm.
But I'm so glad that I did that, because I
Mhm.
think the truth out there in the universe is that the perfect moment never exists.
Yeah.